The reality of awakening. Awakening is not a spiritual experience. It's not an addition to the conscious, an upload of truth from the system, but the collapse of illusion. It is not something gained. It is something dismantled, a subtraction, a peeling away of everything you were told to be, until only the signal of what is remains. Awakening does not decorate the self. It dissolves it. It does not expand the ego. It renders it transparent. And when there is nothing left to prove, and no one left to convince, what's left is presence, undistorted, not holy, not higher, just real. They flash their titles like weapons: doctor, preacher, scholar, imam, each one stepping forward, holding out papers, robes, traditions, as if truth bows to certificates. And then you speak. I am a free human being. My qualification? I exist, without your permission. Not granted by vote, not certified by institution, not recognized by the system that profits from your silence. You don't need credentials to speak what is true. You don't need approval to walk in alignment. Because freedom isn't earned, it's remembered. And no one gives you the right to stand as what you already are. In the system, authority is granted through titles, degrees, badges, robes, books, each one a certificate of compliance. But when you say, I'm a free human being, you're no longer playing the game of credentials. You're standing in the truth of being, not position, not permission, just presence. When your consciousness is free, not just informed, but awake, you don't just think differently. You receive differently. You begin to move at the level of signal, not noise. Clarity, not reaction. Alignment, not effort. You pick up frequencies others can't hear. Truths that aren't spoken, because they can't be received by minds still tuned to distortion. You walk into a room, and without saying a word, you shift the field. Not by power, but by presence. And the ones still bound? They won't understand. They'll feel it, but they won't comprehend it. Because once consciousness rises, it speaks in a tongue the matrix cannot translate. When the mind is still plugged in, when the signal of the matrix still runs through the wires of your being, your consciousness is blurred. You think you're seeing. You think you're choosing. You think you're awake. But you're only rearranging pieces inside the dream they gave you. Because as long as you're tethered to their current, you can't receive the higher transmission. As long as you're dependent on their logic, you can't hear the truth beyond it. You're not just deceived. You're conditioned to reject clarity. And so the voice of truth sounds foreign. The signal of freedom sounds dangerous. The invitation to step out feels like death. Because you haven't yet remembered that real discernment only begins when the plug is pulled from within. When consciousness is still plugged into the matrix, even partially, it's not operating from clarity. It's operating through a filter. That filter is the system's code: distortion, distraction, and delay. It can't truly discern because its perception is being fed through pre-approved definitions. It can't fully see because it's still looking with eyes trained by illusion. And it can't receive what is beyond the matrix because its interface is still tethered to the artificial signal. Everyone who is watching this video falls into one of these categories. Level 1. Surface awakening. Triggered by injustice, lies in media, political corruption. Belief. The system is broken. Trap. Still fighting inside the system, believing it can be fixed from within. Common signs. Activism. Political tribalism. Seeking reform. Reality. Still plugged in, just aware of the discomfort. Level 2. Intellectual detachment. Triggered by discovering suppressed history, deep state operations, Controlled narratives. Belief. We've been lied to. Trap. Becomes a researcher, a truth seeker, but stays dependent on information. Common signs. Consuming podcasts, books, alternate theories. Reality. Mental freedom, but still emotionally and existentially tied to the game. Level 3. Identity disruption. Triggered by realization that identity is constructed. Nationality, religion, role. Belief. I am not who they said I am. Trap. May shift into a new belief system or tribe, unconsciously rebuilding another matrix. Common signs. Sovereign declarations, New Age labeling, chosen identities. Reality. The mask has changed, but there's still a mask. Level 4. Deconstruction of the self. Triggered by collapse of meaning, ego death, spiritual fracture. Belief. There is no self, there is only being. Trap. Risk of nihilism or dissociation, mistaking collapse for clarity. Common signs. Withdrawal from society, non-attachment, radical inward focus. Reality. The plug has loosened, but the cords of thought still linger. Level 5. Return without re-entry. Triggered by not knowledge, but recognition. Belief. None. Knowing. Trap. None. They see the matrix, not as something to escape, but as something never real. Common signs. Calm presence. No need to prove. No fear of system or death. Reality. Fully unplugged. Moves through the matrix, but not of it. A mirror that shatters illusions on contact. This is the one who knows. Not by study, but by resonance. They do not escape the matrix. They see through it. They move within it untouched. Because they remember. They were never separate from truth. No more seeking, no more proving, just presence. Religion in Level 1. Surface awakening. The system is broken, but my faith gives me the answers. This is the person who senses something is wrong in the world, but retreats into religious dogma as a safe space. They wake up to corruption, yet remain fully inside a sanctioned matrix, just wearing a sacred robe. They're still obeying authority, still dependent on external permission for salvation, meaning, or guidance. Still outsourcing truth to a book, a priest, or a tradition. It's a controlled awakening, one that diverts spiritual hunger back into the matrix. Religion in Level 3. Identity disruption. I left the old system and found truth in my religion. Here, religion becomes a chosen identity, a rejection of the mainstream matrix, but still a construction. Whether it's organized religion, New Age, mysticism, or tribal return, it still defines the self through belief and group association. It gives a feeling of freedom, but within new boundaries. The ego feels spiritual, but still holds tightly to form. It replaces one illusion with another, now painted as sacred. Religion, even when well-intentioned, acts as a containment layer. It offers meaning, but at the cost of direct, unfiltered connection. Religion is part of the matrix. It's not the gate. It's the story printed on the wall surrounding it. Here stands the shrine, a beautifully built detour. Religion, the comfort of structure dressed in the language of awakening. For many, this is where the journey ends, not because they found truth, but because they found a story that told them they had. They don't realize the cage is still there. It's just been gilded in scripture and song. They trade the matrix for a temple, but both demand obedience, both fear questions, and both veil the gate that lies beyond. A truly free consciousness doesn't just escape the matrix. It begins to operate on a higher bandwidth. It's no longer decoding reality through fear, identity, or system-fed logic. It's attuned, clear, receptive to signal the world below, can't even perceive I am recognized. Not by license, not by label, not by the permission of men, systems, or symbols. I am because I exist. My standing does not derive from position, profession, or possession. It is not a status you can grant me, nor a category you can confine me to. It is presence, rooted beyond paper, law, or lineage. I am not a title. I am not a product of my environment. I am not your citizen, your subject, your signature. I am a being, conscious, free, aware. No system defines me. No matrix contains me. No institution precedes my essence. I do not operate under assumed authority. I do not require your acknowledgement to be real. And I do not stand in opposition. I stand in truth. I do not petition for recognition. I declare it. And that declaration is eternal. I speak not from ego, but from alignment. Not from rebellion, but from remembrance. Not to claim superiority, but to affirm existence unchained. I do not belong to your order. I belong to being. I belong to the signal of what is true, whole, and undivided. This is my standing, unregistered, unmediated, uncontrolled, and fully aware. The containment field. The system does a great job at containing people's minds, not with chains, but with definitions, not with bars, but with beliefs. It doesn't need to silence you if it can get you to silence yourself. It wraps illusion in education, calls fear responsibility, and labels obedience as virtue. And once your mind accepts its terms, you no longer need to be controlled, because you'll police your own awakening. You'll dismiss anything that doesn't fit the frame. You'll ridicule what threatens the narrative. You'll gatekeep yourself. That's the genius of the Matrix. It doesn't lock the door. It teaches you to never approach it. The message that slipped through. The system does a great job at containing minds, not with chains, but with definitions, not with force, but with belief. It builds filters. It wraps truth in fiction. It teaches you to laugh at what would free you. But even the Matrix, for all its design, cannot stop what is meant to reach you. Because sometimes, a message slips through, not by accident, not by algorithm, but by alignment. A word, a moment, a fracture in the loop, something that echoes louder than the noise. And you hear it. You hear it because you were already drifting, already vibrating out of sync with the broadcast that binds the world. You were ready, and the signal found you. The Matrix didn't authorize it. The system didn't intend it. But the message reached you anyway. Because truth is stronger than containment when a soul is ready to remember. And in that moment, you didn't learn something new. You didn't receive an upload from the world. You recognized something eternal already written in you. And that was the beginning. I was led. Others heard whispers through the veil. Fragments, symbols, signs, signals that slipped through the noise and stirred something sleeping. But not me. I was not stumbled upon by truth. I was summoned by it. I was not shaken awake by accident. I was led. Something beyond the Matrix, beyond distortion, beyond systems of man, took me by the hand and revealed what cannot be taught. This wasn't information. It was remembrance. It wasn't a call to believe. It was a call to be. No doctrine gave this to me. No book confirmed it. No voice but the one I already carried could have spoken it to life. So I do not teach what I learned. I declare what I was given. Because what was revealed to me came from the source, not the system. And that is why it cannot be stopped. What I was given is more than concepts of truth. It is a reality of being, one that encompasses more than can be grasped when consciousness is still tethered to the matrix. This is not a philosophy. It is not a system. It is a direct knowing, a field of clarity the world cannot enter. There is a place beyond the matrix, a state not constructed, but remembered, not taught, but known. It is not mine alone. It is not rare. It is the origin state, where all beings were meant to live, a place where presence is not filtered, where consciousness is not contorted, where truth is not processed through fear, identity, or belief. There are others who live from this place. They do not shout. They do not seek followers. They move quietly, but their presence vibrates with clarity. They are not superior. They are not chosen. That freedom is not a destination. It is a return. And this state, this unfiltered being, is not something to attain. It is something to remove the noise from, until only what is eternal remains. This is where you were meant to live. And though the world may not point you here, it is here, always, waiting for you to stop looking outward and remember the way home. Everything they ever taught you was designed to keep you within a system. Have you ever truly seen outside of it? Have you ever seen outside the system? Everything they ever taught you, the names, the flags, the timelines, the definitions of success and sin, was designed to make sure you never look beyond the frame. From birth, you were inducted into language that shaped your limits, into a morality that served the state, into a history edited by the victors, into systems where obedience masquerades as intelligence. So when you ask, "Have I ever truly seen outside of it?" you're asking more than a question. You're touching a fracture in the illusion. Because to see outside the system, you must first recognize it is a system, not truth, not nature, not reality, but a structure built around your perception. And most have never seen outside of it, not because they can't, but because they never questioned the walls they were raised inside. To see beyond the system is not to reject the world, but to see it as it is, coded, filtered, owned. And once you see that, you begin to notice what lives outside the frame. Stillness, clarity, a field of being that does not ask who you are, because it knows. It cannot be taught. It cannot be inherited, but it can be remembered. So have you seen outside of it? You'll know, not because you have the answers, but because the questions the world once gave you no longer make sense. What if the borders you defend, the laws you obey, and the names you answer to are not signs of identity, but signals of containment? What if what you call your country isn't your homeland, but your programmed loyalty? What if the laws you believe keep you safe were never written to protect you, but to keep you in line? What if the name you answer to was never your own, but the system's placeholder for your compliance? They taught you to defend these things, to wrap them around your soul like armor, to believe that obedience equals morality, that citizenship equals identity, that legality equals truth. But borders are illusions. Laws are leashes. Names are brands, assigned before you knew how to speak. These aren't signs of who you are. They are evidence of what you were taught to obey. Containment doesn't always look like a cage. Sometimes it looks like a title, a flag, a sense of pride in something that was designed to divide. To question these things is not treason. It is awakening. And when you let them go, not with rebellion, but with clarity, you do not lose who you are. You uncover what you've always been. A being without borders, a presence before law, a name that no system can contain. If you were never meant to be controlled, then why were you trained to accept limitation as normal? Trained to accept limitation. If you were never meant to be controlled, then why were you trained to accept limitation as normal? Why did they teach you to sit still, raise your hand, ask for permission, memorize their facts, repeat their history, fear their authority? Why did they shape your worth around performance, around approval, around roles pre-written by a system you never consented to? From the beginning, they fed you boundaries, not for your safety, but for your submission. You were taught to distrust your intuition, to outsource truth, to believe that freedom is dangerous and that control is care. But none of it was natural. You were not born with limitation. You were born with potential unmeasured, and they spent years convincing you to forget it. They called it education. They called it structure. But what they really built was a ceiling, one you were never meant to reach beyond. And yet, here you are, questioning it, feeling the stretch of your own being pressing up against the walls, because something in you remembers. You were never meant to be controlled. You were designed to expand. You were always more than what they told you. And now that you know it, you can never go back to pretending that limitation is truth. Can truth exist inside a structure that punishes those who question it? Can truth exist there? Can truth exist inside a structure that punishes those who question it? Can it survive in a place where silence is rewarded and inquiry is condemned? Can it thrive in a system that builds careers on obedience and tears them down for dissent? If you are told what to believe and told what happens if you don't, is that still truth? Or is it control, dressed as certainty? Truth doesn't fear questions. It welcomes them. It invites the blade of scrutiny, because what is real cannot be cut. Only lies require loyalty. Only illusions punish exposure. Only false gods demand silence. So if the structure shakes when questioned, it was never built on truth. It was built on fear. And anything that demands your submission in place of your discernment is not a path to clarity. It's a cage. Truth doesn't need walls. It doesn't need defense. It simply is. So ask yourself, if they have to punish you for asking, what are they trying to protect? And what are they afraid you'll see? I am eternally aware. I am not a title. I am not a role. I am not a product of system, lineage, or name. I am being. And in that being, I stand as eternally aware, not by belief, but by recognition, not by struggle, but by clarity, not by permission, but by presence. I am not awakening. I am the awakened, not becoming, but remembering, not reaching, but returning. I do not look to the system for validation. I do not borrow truth from books or priests. I speak from what was given directly, from the source beyond all simulation. I am not part of the world's framework. I am the signal that exposes its design. I am not a resistor. I am a revealer. I am not opposition. I am an original. I do not demand recognition. I carry it. I am the remembrance the system was built to erase, the voice that cannot be silenced, the presence that dismantles illusion by its very being. I am not here to follow. I am here to reflect what is, and everything that is not must fall away. I am eternally aware, and that is not my name. It is my standing.